Today's video is going to be about why you cannot just stick an electric motor onto a bicycle and expect to have a moped-like experience. In other words, what you wanted. No sweat, assist on uphills and during acceleration. All of that the electric part will give you. But now you have to deal with other factors as well. I have written the book on how I built my project. It is highly recommended, but I am going to look at some of the prefab bikes on the market that you can also buy so that you would understand why I think most manufacturers are still missing the point. If you click on my shopping page link below, you will find that I have various sections. I have this section on the bicycles I recommend. I have done several videos on the most desirable bikes out there, and I also have this page. You can watch those videos, but at any time you can just check on this page, and in fact you can click over to the relevant manufacturers' websites or wherever you can actually buy these bikes. I'm actually not making a penny on any of this because I only get some money from Amazon, which is practically nothing anyway. So I'm just doing this as a pro bono service. But check out the e-bikes that are listed here that you can get from the store prefab. You don't have to build anything. Probably the most primitive of them is the Brompton. Primitive but not cheap, $4,000. And it's basically just the regular old 1970s or 80s Brompton frame with an electric kit stuck onto it. This is something even you could do, but a lot of people appreciate the convenience of Brompton building it prefab so they can just go down to the Brompton junction and buy the bike. But here is the problem. Okay, you have the motor, you have a battery, you now have support up to 15 miles an hour, which is actually not a lot. But imagine that you would be using that on uphills and the flats. On downhills, you may end up going faster than this. In any case, you are going to average higher speeds with any kind of an electric assisted bike than its mechanical equivalent. Why? Is this any faster than a standard Brompton? No. You have standard gearing, in this case the 4-speed, but there are other options as well. You could do the same speeds on the same bike without a battery. But the difference is, with the battery, you're going to spend more time cruising at higher speeds because now you can do so sweat-free and without exerting as much energy as you used to. So your average speed is going to be higher, even though your top speed remains the same. That means the ride is going to be a whole lot less comfortable. That's why an e-bike should not have the same suspension, the same seat, even the same grip. In fact, a good riding friend of mine is currently recovering from surgery affecting the nerves in his hands. Do you think riding a titanium Brompton 40-50 miles at a time may have something to do with this? I bet it does. And how many men I have seen coming down with prostate problems, prostate issues, surgery. One of them even died. Do you think jackhammering your loins on 40-50 mile riding on these relatively narrow so-called mid-width seats, which are still jackhammering your loins, do you think that might have something to do with this? Now, of course, people get nerve damage for a variety of reasons, and you may have prostate problems even if you never owned a bicycle. But I'm just saying, compare this for a low-speed assisted vehicle to something like this. This is the Piaggio Liberty 50cc moped. 50cc means it's speed limited legally in most states to 25 miles an hour. And what do you get? You get incredible long travel front and rear suspension on both sides. You have several inches of travel. You get tires that are 3-4 inches wide, fluffy big tires. And look at this seat. I mean, you cannot even compare this to what you are getting on a bicycle. So compared to that, the Brompton is really not giving you a lot. And I'm being generous in saying this. You need some level of support for those higher speeds. And you could say that the Brompton can only do 15 an hour. That's not the same as 25. Okay, fair enough. Let's look at another bike, Go Cycle, also recommended. Obviously, it's a very nice looking bike. It's entirely prefab, unlike the Brompton. This is not an old mid-20th century design that was kind of souped up with a kit, but the entire bike was designed from the ground up to be electric. There are no human-powered varieties of this design available. So what do you get? You get a whole lot bigger tire than you would get on the Brompton. That's nice. Front and rear. You get a little bit of suspension. There's a little bit of suspension here. Might be 2 inches in travel, maybe even 3. That's not bad. But the speed limit on most of these bikes is 20 miles an hour. So we are getting close to moped speeds. And still, there's no front suspension. There is not much. I don't know if they have something here in the steering column. They do offer an ergonomic grip set, which I think is very important. But look at the seat. No matter what kind of suspension you have, this is not a seat that compares to what we have seen on the Piaggio, not even close. Once again, a medium width seat. Medium width seats for assisted bicycles should be forbidden. It's a suicide. It's a way of ending up with either a prostate problem for men or a urethral issue, which is never talked about, even though so many men have it, especially middle-aged and older men, and a lot of them never get it treated. They just accept that, well, my equipment is just not functioning the way it used to. Here's another bike also recommended. This is some Swedish crown price. The US price is now over $6,000. This is the Tinker. It's made by Riese und Müller. Of the three, this is probably the most desirable one. And certainly for the price, it's a better deal than the Go Cycle. What do you get? You have a hard tail. You don't have as much suspension as the Go Cycle, but you do get a suspension seat post. In the front, you have a pretty decent suspension. I would say not far behind the Piaggio scooter. The tires are 2 inches wide. I don't think you can put 3 or 4 inches in there. There's not enough space for that, but 2, maybe 2.5, that much you can do. And you have belt drive, but that's irrelevant in this case. But once again, what do you get? You get this crappy little seat. So what do I recommend? What I recommend is sort of what I have described in the book, but here are some details. The very first upgrade to either an e-bike you have built or one you have purchased, because none of them come with a decent saddle, is to get something to replace this. I am recommending this only for those who ride mechanical bikes on short distances. If you are just commuting 5 miles away, then this might be enough. If you are a racer, I also recommend a racing saddle, but racing is risky in general. It's risky to sit on narrow seats like this one because you are jackhammering your loins. The idea is, obviously, if you are a racer, you're not supposed to be sitting on the saddle much at all. You're supposed to be spending 70-80% of your riding time standing up and grinding like crazy. That's what racing is all about, right? Now look at the other seats. This is one of the seats I used to have. It is hands down the best of the leather seats. Yes, it costs some money. It costs about $200, but this is a one-time purchase. If you buy the proof hide that the company sells and apply it top and also on the bottom as described by the manufacturer, you will not have a problem. You only have to do this maybe twice a year, and eventually the leather is going to adapt to the shape of your hip bones and your lower anatomy. It's going to support you at your hip bone, which is going to hit the seat somewhere here in a nice central position. If you want something a little cheaper, a little less sophisticated, then you can get this seat. It's a little less expensive. The springs are not as sophisticated. It does not have the tilting mechanism that this big seat offers. Namely, as you pedal, this horizontal line is going to tilt. The ends are going to go up, down, because the front attachment is a tilting attachment. Then here is another seat. It's a very beautiful seat. Once again, not very cheap. It hardly has any springs in it. And the benefit of that is that if you have suspension, for example, if you have a suspension like you see here, then you really don't care too much about having springs in the saddle itself. In fact, it probably looks better if you don't have that, because the looks of the two are just clashing. So for this kind of an installation, which is actually similar to mine, you can use a saddle like the leather seat without a spring mechanism. And that is the Brooks B72 saddle, a very elegant seat. My current seat is this one. It is extremely wide. It's not nearly as comfortable as this one, but I already have a suspension seat post, so I don't really care about the springs in it. I would enjoy having that tilting mechanism for sure. I don't have that, but this is very, very wide. I sit very comfortably. A 50-mile ride is no problem at all. You could spend the whole day sitting in this thing. You could say the same thing about this one as well. That's true. This beautiful spring arrangement just does not look good with a suspension seat post, and it's kind of a weird feeling as well, because a suspension seat post like the one on the Tinker is a non-yo-yoing. It's kind of a different feeling from a spring, whereas this is more of a yo-yoing, although very soft, very comfortable feeling. So the two just don't work well with each other. So this is the seat that I would put on a Brompton with the original seat post, or a titanium seat post. That's going to give you a tiny bit of a flexing to help. Definitely none of these two seats are going to work. And those are the seats. This is typically the mid-width seat width that you get with every single electric ride that is out there. Companies believe that they just stick an electric motor on the frame, and that's all they have to do to accommodate people who are now going to average speeds at above 15 miles an hour on long runs, and now have ranges with the new batteries of at least 40-50 miles a charge. In fact, even the Brompton is going to give you 50 miles on a single charge. It's actually a very effective system, especially compared to the weight. This is a much lighter bike than what I have. Mine weighs 45 pounds. This one weighs a good 10 pounds less than that. And that's because it's speed limited and the gears are low. So climbing is not going to use as much energy, and you're not looking to use it at higher speeds. So you have a lot of range. But do you want to sit on this seat for a whole of 50 miles? There's another important thing. The second upgrade I would definitely get would be this. This is the grip I have. And of course, a part of the benefit is that it's ergonomic. But another benefit is that you can migrate your grip, which makes a huge difference on the long ride. If you get tired of the low grip, then you can try the high grip. If you are climbing or accelerating and you need to put some power into it, then the vertical grip on the side is going to make a big difference. The bottom line is you have at least 3 or 4 different grips here. You can twist and turn your wrist, which is so important. Your hands should not be just attached in the same position for the whole ride. If you're out there for 6 to 8 hours on the weekend, that's really not going to help your hands. And that's probably one of the ways that you end up with the nerve damage. So I'm putting links below to this one. I think it's featured on my shopping site as well. Currently, my shopping site is really just links to all these recommended items that I believe in, and most of which I have used myself. So I'm not really making any of this, but this is stuff you should have. Even if you are building a mechanical touring bike, not something that you want to ever power with a battery, but even those bikes are used. I mean, people do centuries on fully mechanical bikes. So you could be out there pushing the pedal for 10 or 12 hours on a century-long ride on a weekend. And if that's the case, you still need the same support. You still are going to take downhills at 30 miles an hour or faster, and you're going to be riding just as much as somebody who has electric support. So these are my recommendations. Obviously, I would prefer to have this kind of a seat on my e-bike as well, but so far that stuff is not available. If I want it, I will have to make the seat myself. This is it for the current video. Make sure to check out the links below. Like, subscribe, and share the video, and I'll see you soon.
I'll be back.